Welcome back to another user spotlight. And today I'm really excited to have a podcast host and someone who's a wealth of information and who's been using Edgar for a while join us to go ahead and chat a little bit about social media tips and tricks. So I'm going to pass it on over and have him introduce himself, and then we'll get into the good stuff.
Okay, my name's Guthrie Chamberlain, and I have a podcast called Wisdom-Trek, and it's a 5-day-a-week podcast that is short, usually anywhere from 6 to 10 minutes, and it just focuses on biblically based wisdom and ways that we can apply principles in our lives in order to be more successful as a person, and if you're in a business, also to apply those to your business.
I love how niche that is and how kind of zoned in you are on the people who would really gravitate towards wanting this information. Can you talk a little bit about what you really do to make sure that your content is reaching this small group of people who you know is going to be rallying around it and really excited to listen and engage with it?
Well, I use MeetEdgar particularly so that I don't have to manually post to all the social media channels. Every day it pulls MeetEdgar automatically pulls my feed in. In addition to that, I also post it, since it doesn't pull it in till the night after I've posted it or it's released, usually in the morning when I'm posting the episode to Facebook, just as so that it's fresh content every morning. I also post it on into MeetEdgar as another posting to it that gets part of the catalog. So then it becomes part of the library. Right now I have 1,336 episodes out, and all of those are in MeetEdgar. So it goes through and redistributes about a half a dozen of those throughout the day to the various social media channels. So since my content is not evergreen, then it doesn't matter basically what type or time of year or particular thing. I don't focus on current events. Once in a while, my podcast will reflect a holiday, or especially around Christmas and Easter, may reflect certain holidays theme within the podcast itself. But even if those are listened to on off holiday times, they're still applicable to everyday practical wisdom.
Yeah, man, 1,300 episodes. Think about this, guys. If you've created all of that great content and you only share it one time, how many people are you going to miss by not making sure it shows up for your new followers, as well as those who might not have consumed it the first time you shared it? So that's what Edgar is really talking about when he goes into evergreen content. And the cool thing about using Edgar, especially for a podcast, is you are able to link up your podcast feed right here as an RSS feed. And what this does is every time you release a new podcast, MeetEdgar will automatically pull it into your library, and it will automatically send out when that category is on your schedule, which is a huge time saver and a huge way to make sure that you're getting that traffic right away to your newest episode to get those great download numbers in there. So I'm so glad that you were able to figure out how to link that up and how to really take advantage of that. And can you share a little bit about when you are making sure that you're repeating these and kind of thinking about the times of day that you're sending out all of these great podcast episodes, how you really think about your schedule and how you go into MeetEdgar and kind of experiment with this weekly repeating schedule here?
Yeah, I've pretty much have said it because our audience is basically worldwide. So I just set it so that it releases something. The podcasts themselves release about every 3 to 4 hours in one of the episodes. And then I spent years collecting just inspirational quotes that I have in a database catalog of over 11,000 quotes right now in that catalog. So I also release those primarily to Twitter on a much more frequent basis. They're about one every 2 hours that I get into those. So it gives me the opportunity to have those quotes going out in between the podcast releases. I'm a little heavier during the day. And so each day it'll release 3 to 4 episodes of the podcast to social media, and then about a half a dozen events from the quote database that I set up, which is primarily Twitter, but a few of those get out to the other broader social media channels also.
Yeah, I love that. Having a variety of content, guys, really truly is the key to social media, because you don't want to just be broadcasting at your followers all the time. You want them to really want to engage with you and to get a variety of content. So if you're a podcaster especially, think about really cool ways that you can take quotes from it within your episodes and put them onto your different backgrounds that you could load as a quote that is on a beautiful image. Like you can do this in Canva really easily, or you can go out and search internet quotes that might have something to do with your podcast. So it can be a mix of your own thought leadership as well as really popular quotes, because those are gold on social media. People love to share them. People love to consume them. And it's that emotional touch that you get with that content that's truly going to pull your followers in. So getting that great mix of your own content, your own traffic driving, as well as stuff that'll just give people that quick value is going to be such a good tip for you to take away from this. So are there any other features in Edgar that you truly find help you connect with your community or really help you engage in the way that you know the algorithms are looking for these days?
Yeah, I think it's just the fluidity of it, the ease of use where I can set it and forget it literally, and be assured that even my old database or old podcast is being circulated through. And I find that since it is about wisdom that can be applied both personally and on a business perspective, I find even LinkedIn, I get a good bit of people either sharing or commenting on the daily post. And it's not necessarily business focused as far as the podcasts themselves, but the practical tips and application to it can be applied both to business and personal life. So I think more people, even if they're entrepreneurs or business owners, they like that self-development aspect of it. And a lot of the podcasts focus on self-development. From a lot of it is very from a Christian perspective. I include scripture references in all the podcasts, and also how that applies to daily lives. And that seems to have a real connection with those that are listening to it.
That is such an interesting tip. And especially since LinkedIn is becoming a little more social these days, at MeetEdgar, you're able to put your content into our database and have it go out to multiple channels at once. So if you're someone who hasn't experimented on LinkedIn yet and you want to amplify your message out without a lot of extra effort, this is a great way to start testing things on LinkedIn. And I feel like I've heard this from a lot of people, that LinkedIn is that place people are going to get that really juicy kind of personal development stuff. And any product or service, you have a way to get that personal development into your social media, whether it's showing behind the scenes content about you and how you do your productive workday and your efficiency, whether it's about really kind of opening that behind the scenes up to what you're working on for that sneak peek, and how you're doing it. You know, even if you're not selling personal development, there's a way to do that on LinkedIn. So I love that as a tip for content creation that way. And when you're actually creating your content in MeetEdgar and using the composer and kind of getting in there with all of your podcasts and your quotes and stuff like that, do you actually spend time batching, or kind of what's your creative process for actually constructing these social media status updates?
Well, since I do most of the podcasts I script it, because mine is a scripted podcast. So I usually script it and record it the day prior to when it's going to be released. Once in a while, if I'm going to be traveling or tied up for some other reasons, I will batch a few episodes ahead. But I find that I do best in my schedule if I script it and record and post it, or get it ready to post the day before, and then it's released early in the morning of the day it's scheduled for. And then it will be that morning, I'll go ahead and manually post it to MeetEdgar just so I can have that extra entry within the library. And then MeetEdgar will pull it about, I think it's about 11 o'clock in the evening that it's released, and then add that to the library. So it becomes a follow-up or secondary. And
especially being a podcaster, if you guys out there are someone who takes a lot of time on your show notes, one of the coolest things about MeetEdgar and podcast links is once you put it into the importer and it comes in, you can actually go right here in your MeetEdgar account, and you can then actually use our auto-generate variations button right here on your podcast link, and it will go ahead and pull the show notes and make little status updates with snippets in there for you, which allows you to test different messaging, and which allows you, again, to make sure when you are repeating this content that it goes out with a little bit more variety, and that maybe some language that hit someone the first time didn't resonate as much, so they didn't listen. But the next time you share that piece of content, you had a different headline go out with it, a different snippet from within the podcast go out with it, and that might actually touch them in a way that compels them to listen. So that's the true power of using this variations, especially the auto-generate variations. If you take good show notes and you're putting them out there to, again, give your followers the best idea of what they're going to get, because it's that expectation that we're setting. When we're putting content out online, you want to make sure once someone clicks through and they actually get to consume it, that their expectation of what they're going to consume is met. So definitely take advantage of those features if you are a podcaster. And just podcasting in general, I'd love to pick your brain a little bit about how social media can really help people gain a following in general. You know, I know you said Twitter and LinkedIn have helped you so much, but are there any marketing tips in general that you can offer to other podcasters?
Well, I think especially if you're out to monetize, which I don't monetize my own podcast because our consulting business actually supports the podcast that we produce. But it is certainly a way to reach an audience if you're looking to monetize, or if you have a product in particular that might tie in with your podcast. I think it'd be very valuable to get that type of information on the market, and especially with the flexibility of changing the heading and producing additional releases of the same podcast. And that's particularly important if you're not doing it as frequently as I am on a 5-day per week episode. So it allows you to recycle your episode over the course of the week if you're just producing it once a week or once every 2 weeks, and still have different headings or different taglines on it so that it does draw different people's attention. I think that would be important within MeetEdgar.
Yeah, I love that so much. So this has been a wealth of information, and we really appreciate you sharing with us. Is there any other last tips or tricks you want to leave with the Edgar community before we sign off here?
For me, it's been an extremely solid platform for me. I've had very little issues with it, and the few minor ones, which has been less than a handful over the course of the 4 or 5 years I've been working with it, have been addressed, immediately. So I've been happy with the upgrades, with the additional links that we can put in there. So I think overall it's just becoming better all the time. And I think it's been a very solid platform. It's just saved me. I mean, I don't have a lot of time since we run a full-time consulting business also, in addition to our podcast, that it saves me all the time. I just don't have the time to invest in posting to social media, and this allows me to do it almost invisibly without any additional input.
That is so good to hear. Yeah, man, running 2 businesses, having that podcast, doing all that stuff, it does leave the way that time can actually sneak up on you, and you just leave social media for those in-between times. But when you have these systems and these strategies in MeetEdgar, you're truly showing up for your followers in a consistent way, which is a sign of respect, I think, to say, if you're following me, I want to give you the content that you deserve to see. So I'm glad that's working for you. Well, thank you so much, and we'll go ahead and sign on off here so you can get back to podcasting away.
Okay, thank you.